Welcome, everyone. We'll just wait a few minutes. So thank you everyone who's watching today. I'm wondering, can you share in the chat where you're watching from? So what country, city, where are you guys right now? I'm seeing we have viewers from Utrecht, the Netherlands, and from Turkey. Welcome. If you've just joined, then please let us know where you're watching from. We're very curious. Someone from Tilburg has joined. Welcome. So just letting you guys know, if there are any questions during the webinar, you can ask them in the chat. One of my colleagues will be answering during the webinar within the chat, and then at the end we'll pick some out. But all of your questions will be answered. If there's no time at the end, then it will happen after. I keep getting some more comments from Germany. Essen, welcome. So I think it's a good time to start. Another person from Duisburg, welcome. Netherlands, Rotterdam. So today we'll be discussing the AI Act, and you've all signed up because that's a topic you want to know about. We're doing it together with Deloitte. We're from Textmetrics. We have Maaike from Textmetrics, Julie from Deloitte, and they will be offering you loads of information today, which will hopefully be very useful in this exciting time of a lot of digital changes. I'll once again say, if you have questions, please ask them in the chat. We'll try to answer them during the webinar, and at the end we'll take some time. And then right now, I will hand the word over to Julie.
Yes, thank you, Rebecca. So first of all, a warm welcome to everyone. Thank you for dialing in on this sunny day in the Netherlands. I hope it will be sunny in Germany and Turkey as well. Yeah, I'm very happy to be here today. Textmetrics invited us to join their webinar on dummy-proofing the AI Act. And that is what we will be doing in the session. So it will be a basic session where we touch upon the most important topics of the AI Act and what it will mean for your organization in the coming months and years. And we would like you, as Rebecca just mentioned, to ask the questions at the end or already in the chat, and then we will answer them at the end. So first of all, the topics that we will discuss today, we will briefly do an introduction, Mike and I. Then I will discuss why was there a need for an EU regulation on AI. Then we will look at some topics to determine if your organization is ready. And there are already some obligations applicable as of the 2nd of February, actually last month. And then finally, I will emphasize the call to action. What can you do already now to become compliant? And then I will hand over to Maaike from Textmetrics, who will explain how Textmetrics can help you. And finally, we will end with the questions. So a brief introduction. My name is Julie van Vliet. I'm a senior legal consultant within Deloitte, the Netherlands, Deloitte Legal to be specific. And in our practice, we advise our clients, which are clients in the public, but also in the private sectors. And we advise them on GDPR compliance, but also on compliance with the EU digital regulations that have been enforced already, but are still coming in the coming years, such as the AI Act. But also we help clients with contracting questions and compliance in the field of, not compliance, but advice in the field of intellectual property. And I would like to hand over to Maaike.
Thank you, Julie. Pleasure to meet everyone, although not face-to-face, digitally. Pleasure to be here. So my name is Maaike Voeten. I'm CEO at Textmetrics and got in touch with Julie and her colleagues a little while back, in which we were discussing the AI Act and the impact that it has on businesses and also where our technology comes into play. So we found a very nice match to have this talk today and see how we can maybe advise some companies on how to handle this. So looking forward in telling you a little bit more about how we do that from our perspective. But Julie, I would say the floor is yours.
Thank you, Maaike. So to start with a brief introduction on the EU Fit for the Digital Age package or strategy that came from the European Commission in their 5-year period between 2019 and 2024. You see many regulations here and directives, and in the scope of the 29 to 2024, these regulations and directives have become final or are already in force. And directives need to be transposed into national law, which means that there are still some directives that will need to be implemented. And this will play out as we speak until 2026. And here you see an overview of many laws, acts, regulations. And the AI Act is one of them. So we will only discuss today the AI Act. But keep in mind that there's a lot coming or already there that needs compliance in the field of data and digital developments. So first of all, why did Europe need an AI regulation? What are the drivers and the objectives of the AI Act? Well, as we all know, AI has impacted our lives in the past years, especially when we look at ChatGPT or other generative AI practices. We use them in our work, but we also use them in our private lives. And AI is also in many of the products that we use. So we want to make sure that the products we use are compliant with the EU freedoms and values, and to make sure that we that it doesn't form a harm to our health, safety, and fundamental rights. So first of all, one of the drivers for change is that there's actually a digital revolution driven by innovative AI technologies, but also that we see AI practices coming up that may be incompatible with EU rights, freedoms, and values, and we want to protect them. And as last, the lack of trust. Many people do not trust certain AI tools, they rather trust humans, and we must make sure that AI systems will not have that harmful impact on society. But then the AI Act also has certain goals and objectives that it wants to reach, for instance, establishing processes and roles to enforce quality throughout the life cycle of an AI system, to make sure that the AI system is monitored throughout the whole development phase, but also when it is in use. And also to promote trustworthy and ethical AI that is in line with the EU values that we have. The AI Act is eventually a very, very lengthy act. It has 262 pages to be specific. It is very extensive. So as I said, we will not be able to touch on each detail, and this is not an AI training, but we will just discuss some interesting topics that will help you. I'm not able to click to the next slide. Yes, thank you. So first, you need to understand what is considered as an AI system. And to understand that, we need to look at the definition of the AI system in the AI Act. The EU aimed for a clear definition, and it aligned closely with the definition that the OECD has already established. And the definition of the AI Act is an AI system that is a machine-based system designed to operate with varying levels of autonomy. So it means that it doesn't have to be fully autonomous. There only a slight level of autonomy can be enough. And that it may exhibit adaptiveness after deployment, and that for explicit or for implicit objectives, it infers from the input it receives, so what you put into it, how to generate outputs. And the output can be predictions, content recommendations, or decisions that can impact both physical and virtual environments. And it achieves this by using various techniques. So one of them is, for instance, machine learning. You might be familiar with that, whereby it learns from data and logic-based methods. And it follows specific rules or knowledge structures. And these systems can have different levels of autonomy, but they also might operate on their own or as part of a product. So they are either integrated into a product or functioning separately from that product. And this is, as you can hear, quite a broad definition. So it does not include basic traditional software or very basic rule-based programming. But it does, how do you say that? It does cover quite a lot of type of systems. So it's a very wide definition, and that means that AI, in the sentence of the AI Act, can be everywhere within your organization. So it's good to assess, are we using any artificial intelligence that falls under the AI Act scope? Again, I'm not able to click through to the next slide. Rebecca, could you help me? Thank you. Yes, one slide back. Perfect. So when we look at the roles that are appointed in the AI Act. There are several roles that are stipulated in the Act, and I've chosen these 3 roles. So first of all, the providers. The providers are the entities or the natural persons that develop an AI system to place it on the market. So they actually create the system. Then you have the importers and the distributors. Those are the ones who place AI on the market and put it into service or make it available to other parties. And then you have the deployers. Those are the ones who use and deploy an AI system for their professional activities. And for today, I would like to zoom into the deployers, as I expect many of the people in the audience to fall within the scope of the deployers. And so for the deployers, those are the ones that, as I said, use an AI system for professional activities. And here it is important to keep in mind that it is a natural or legal person, a public authority, agency, or other body that uses an AI system under its authority, except where the AI system is used in the course of a non-professional activity. So if you use it only for your private life, then that does not fall within the scope. You do not fall within the scope of a deployer. And for deployers, there are certain things to keep in mind. So when you are a deployer, you need to make sure that you use the AI system in line with the provider's instructions. And furthermore, you need to implement and safeguard human oversight. And with that is meant that you need to make sure that there's a human in the loop, a human that will monitor the use of the AI system. Furthermore, you need to verify what data is used as input data, and if that data is suitable for the given purpose, to make sure that the output is the correct output based on the input. Then you need to ensure that the AI system is continuously monitored to make sure that any malfunctioning or risks or incidents are detected on time, and that if they happen or if they occur, that you can do something about it. And for that, it is also very important to keep logs of the activity of an AI system to make sure that if something happens, you can find where it came from and detect that. For the other roles that I just pointed out, there are also very important obligations to keep in mind, but I will not touch upon them. One example could be for the providers that they need to have a risk management system, for instance. So if they use high-risk AI systems, they need to keep a risk management system to ensure that the risks are mitigated. Then I would like to look at the classification and the build-up of the AI Act. So when you look at the text of the AI Act, I actually have it here, you will see that the AI Act has several categories of provisions. And to start with the prohibited practices. So as of the 2nd of February last month, the prohibited practices obligations or the prohibition of prohibited practices has entered into force. And that means that certain use of AI systems are prohibited as of the 2nd of February. So it is important to check first within your company, if you have not done so already, do we use any AI systems that fall within the scope of the prohibited practices? And one example is, for instance, social scoring or remote facial recognition, or for instance, manipulative AI. But also, if you place an AI system on the market, put it into service or use an AI system to infer emotions of a natural person in the areas of a workplace. So if you use AI to understand the emotions of your employees, for instance, that is a prohibited practice, and it is good to determine if your company is using those type of systems. There has also been published a guidance from the European Commission on what falls within prohibited practices. So it's good to take a look at that. Then we will go to the high-risk AI systems. The high-risk AI systems are involved in Chapter 3, and those systems are intended to be used as a safety component of a product, or the AI system is itself a product. And those are covered by the Union harmonization legislation that is listed in Annex 1. So for instance, medical devices are already, they already fall within the scope of the medical device regulation, and then it is listed in Annex 1. And so there are several other types of products that already fall within other EU legislation. So this is also important to note. The AI Act does have a lot of similarities with the GDPR. So you can also use your GDPR compliance as a basis, but it is actually product legislation, and it looks at the AI systems as products. So that's important to keep in mind. Then to give an example of high-risk systems, to give some examples that are put out in Annex 3, AI systems that are intended to be used for the recruitment or the selection of natural persons, in particular to place targeted job advertisements, to analyze and filter job applications, and to evaluate candidates. That is maybe something to keep in mind. Do you use in your organization some kind of system that is used for recruitment or selection of natural persons? Because then it is very important to check if you comply with obligations for the high-risk AI system. And for instance, it also covers other types of AI systems, such as AI systems used for critical infrastructure. Then you should think about infrastructure, digital infrastructure, but also road traffic or infrastructure for the supply of water, gas, heating, or electricity. And then you have the transparency obligations for certain AI systems. So these AI systems are, for instance, chatbots or deepfakes that can maybe also be high-risk AI systems, but there are certain systems that also need some extra transparency obligations. So for instance, when you use a chatbot, it is important that people need to be informed that they are interacting with an AI system and not with a human. But there are, of course, some exceptions. So for instance, to investigate criminal offenses, you might not have to inform people that they are talking to an AI system. And as you can see, the top part, the top bar is blue, and it's a little bit different than the others. And this is due to the quick developments of generative AI. So the general purpose AI models are some provisions that have been added to the text of the AI Act due to all the quick developments. And for those, there are also special provisions with special obligations and requirements. So it's good to keep those in mind, as many companies currently use generative AI already. Then we will look at the timeline, because it already started with a proposal in April 2021, and then the AI Act has had a lot of revisions, and it actually entered into force on the 2nd of August 2024. And the first requirements have already entered into force on the 2nd of February of this year, as I already mentioned, which is to begin with the literacy requirements. So this means that companies using AI need to make sure that the people who are working with and using AI, but also developing AI, need to make sure that they know what the risks are, and to understand how to interact with AI systems, and also to know what obligations there are. And for this, there is also, for instance, a repository that has been published by the European Commission, where you can see what other companies do in order to comply with their literacy requirements. So I can maybe put that in the chat later. So you can have a look, okay, what do these companies actually do already to comply with this obligation, if you have not done so already. And then you have the prohibited AI practices that I also just mentioned. It is very important to make sure that if you haven't done so, to check within your company, are we using any AI systems that fall within the prohibited practices? And then from the 2nd of August 2025, so this year in summer, the general purpose AI obligations will apply. And the competent authorities will have to be appointed in the member states. And the member states should have implemented rules regarding penalties. So as you can see, there is a layered approach to how the obligations will enter into force. And then on the 2nd of February next year, the European Commission will have to have published guidelines on the classification of high-risk AI systems, but also on how to monitor, how to create a plan to monitor your AI system when you've placed it on the market. And then from the 2nd of August 2026, the member states should have established one or more AI regulatory sandboxes. And a sandbox is a controlled framework in which companies will be able to develop an AI system supervised by a competent authority. So it's actually a safe environment in which AI systems can be developed, validated, tested, in order to make sure that it complies with the law eventually. And there's regulatory supervision involved, of course. Then next year in August, we will also have the application of the obligations of the high-risk AI systems in Annex 3. And in 2027, the obligations of high-risk AI systems to be used as a safety component or where the AI system is a product will apply. And then a third-party conformity assessment is required. So this means that you need to have a CE mark for your product in order to be able to use it. And that needs to be obtained from a third party. So then finally, the call to action. What can you now do to comply with the AI Act? And here, as you can see on the slide, there is a starting point. And we would advise you to look at your current structures that you have implemented under the GDPR. Look at your governance structure and look at the procedures you have already in place and make sure that you can tweak them with the AI Act compliance obligations. And this will help you, as what I said earlier, the GDPR, you can find some systematic approaches from the GDPR back into the AI Act, but it is eventually a product legislation, so it will differ on some points. But for instance, under the GDPR, you have your record of processing activities in which you have recorded all the processing activities of personal data. And many of them will also involve, if you use AI, they will also involve AI. So you can make an inventory of the AI applications in your organization or within your department. And for that, you can use your record of processing activities as a starting point. And once you have done that, you can determine the scope of the legal framework of the AI Act. So we call this an applicability assessment to see if it actually applies to your organization, but also to your AI systems. And with that, you can identify what requirements apply to your organization and to the systems that are in use. And with that, you can also determine how that will impact your organization in terms of compliance. From that, you can determine which roles, responsibilities, and priorities you need to put in place based on what you've analyzed, and you can prioritize. So you can make sure that the people that you already have within your governance structure or within your organization that comply with the GDPR, that they can help to also comply with the AI Act obligations. And after that, you can ensure that the people who are involved in AI Act compliance, but also who are involved in developing AI, are educated also as part of the literacy obligation. And to make sure that those people will also know what to do to comply with this new legal framework. And after that, you can adapt any changes to the organization and to the structures, but also make sure that you have the monitoring processes in place so that the AI systems are controlled and that any incidents are reported. So also similar to the GDPR, if you have a data breach procedure, you will now also have a procedure to report any incidents of your AI system. And with that, you will be able to comply with obligations under the AI Act and hopefully prevent fines, but also hopefully prevent that an AI system will have to be stopped or redeveloped as you have your monitoring through the whole life cycle. And with that, I would like to hand over to Maaike, who will now give a demonstration on how Textmetrics could support you.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you for that explanation on how to handle or to cope with the AI Act and the measures that it requires. And I think that is where we from Textmetrics could fit in part of that. So we are an AI-powered SaaS solution for text governance. Our company is a Dutch organization. We're based in Arnhem in the Netherlands. And we support organizations to make sure that all their communication remains consistent and compliant and aligned with the company guidelines to help protect the brand messaging and reputation. So how we actually do that is, and what we actually see happening out there is that generative AI is already being used widely. So I suppose that most of you have probably already used chat functionalities from ChatGPT and asked for a certain way to provide content. However, the use of these kind of technologies also enforce a certain way of transparency, as Julie just mentioned. So it requires to have a human in the loop. And that is where we actually help organizations to be in control of the usage of generative AI, because I think it's fair to say that it will not go away and it will only advance further. Organizations will can try to block this, but even if you try to do that, people will most likely still use it, either on their private phones, if it's not allowed on their business equipment. And how we actually help is that we provide real-time suggestions to make sure that your content is aligned with regulatory rule sets and ethical standards. So how we do that, and I will show you in a bit, is that we provide real-time feedback on the actual written text, either if that is written by yourself completely or prompted via a ChatGPT or via our own generative AI. Our technology helps you to rewrite or even translate certain parts of the content where required, and that matches with topics like your online findability, but also the readability level of the text, diversity and inclusion, the branding, and other benefits that you might want also be part of the text that you are publishing. And also we integrate seamlessly with existing systems. So pretty much everywhere where you write, if that is an ATS system in recruitment or a content management system for commercial purposes, or even Word or Outlook, we integrate in those text fields seamlessly. And therefore actually helping organizations not to be afraid of AI, but actually embrace it and make use out of it, because it really helps organizations, but also people to become more effective and efficient in how they create content. But really make sure that we master it in a way that it's really becomes a powerful engine for sustainable growth and positive change, and avoid that it's causing harm in any way. And we do that we support on multiple levels. So on brighter level, that provides direct control on actually the output that it creates, and fine tune that in the best way, but also providing managers a way to monitor and report about the actual usage. And on board level, higher management, a way to make sure that you cross-check with the compliancy aspect of it, and feedback certain data points back to your own management dashboard. So think about direct connection with technologies like Power BI in that sense. So our technology is based on a combination of natural language processing and machine learning, and our algorithms are based on AI, providing that real-time feedback on the data, but also providing a monitoring option that allows you to keep track on all the content that has already been published, and make sure that it remains in line. The world changes quite rapidly, so probably legislation is changing, but also the rule sets that you would like to track as a company changes. So also when content is already published, we also provide options to monitor that, to make sure that you can improve it over time as well. So this is actually a short part where I'll dive into the system myself and share my screen. Oh, yes, share. So I will give you a very quick overview, and obviously if any of you would be interested in learning more on how this actually would look like for your organization, I would be more than happy afterwards to kind of provide a more detailed demonstration. But here I copy-pasted pretty much a prompt that I've asked ChatGPT, or actually via our own chat, which is also connected with OpenAI. So the chat functionality in our own platform is pretty much the same as you would ask ChatGPT. To write a text about an environmental permit. Fun story. But to give you an example, because these kind of public texts are mostly a little bit complex to read, and that is, I think, a lot of government officials are also struggling with that, to avoid the complexity. And what our technology actually allows you to do is to analyze such a text, and it could also be that parts of this is already handwritten. So for us, it doesn't matter where the text comes from, but you have the option to generate it from scratch via the platform as well. And then go through it based on certain topics. And all these topics that you see on the right side of the screen are all tailored towards the needs and rule set that you would like to set as a company. So it could be a limited list, it could be a more extensive list, and the topics could change and be different depending on your needs and requirements. Maybe it's so every topic shows you a marker that there is something that you could improve in the text. So if we go towards the D&I module, which is obviously a hot topic, we see that here in this text there is a more male tone of voice, and our system actually recommends to change this towards a more feminine or neutral tone of voice. You can change this around. So let's say if you want to actually appeal to a more feminine public, you can also change this and set it on a more female tone of voice. And the same if you want to have a more masculine tone of voice, change that around to men. But in this case, we wanted to have a more neutral one. And then if you click on the eye, you can see immediately in the text which words are not neutral in this context. And then you can actually go and click on it. And then the AI will already serve you another word that is a more feminine tone of voice. But you can also alter and add your own suggestion, and then the AI will learn from that. So this way you can go through the whole text and change different aspects in it. So readability obviously is also an important one, especially if you also look at the Accessibility Act that has come into play here in Europe. Everything needs to be understandable and mostly in B1 level. And here we see that the choice of wordings is sometimes a little bit too difficult for the audience. And then again, you can click on the eye and it shows you in the text how you can change. So it provides you the option to change directly a word that has been already listed. And these can be words that you already feed back into the system on the background based on the tone of voice that you would like to follow as a company. But you can also ask the AI assistant to create other alternatives if you don't like the one that has been mentioned by the system, and then immediately replace it. And this way you can go through the text and alter the text based on all these requirements, and analyze the text once more to see if you have matched the criteria that are most important. What is important also looking at the AI Act in this matter is that the writer, in this sense, is always in full control on what they will or will not change around. So it remains transparent in what has been generated with the AI and which changes you as a human are following. And you are also in the lead of deciding if in this context you decide maybe to keep the wording as is, even though you know it's a different tone of voice that might be recommended, but it fits to this requirement, for instance. So this is a very short kind of overview of our platform and what it can do. And this is only a slide overview of the actual cross-check that you can do in a text. We also have options to monitor the feedback that or the text and content that you have published already. Those can be also fed back into the system in the dashboard, but can also be fed directly in terms of metrics towards your own Power BI dashboard, for instance, or other form of management dashboards. And those can be data that go even beyond the text itself. So if you think about Accessibility Act, it also takes care of is it readable for someone that is colorblind in terms of the coloring on the page? Are URLs linked in the correct way? Are the buttons and pictures named in the correct way? All those kind of small but impactful aspects that you would like to track. And then I guess we can go back to the presentation.
Yes, thank you. I'll set up the presentation again. I think Julie's having some trouble with her internet, so we'll see if that works. But maybe in the meantime, if you have any questions in the chat, please post them and we can discuss. Any questions that cannot be answered by Julie right now, you can still ask them and she'll make sure that you get a reply after. But for now, Maaike, maybe you can share with us what role do you think that the human plays within this whole AI Act security story? How does the human fit in?
Yeah, it's an interesting one because I think that's where when we talked with Julie, we were kind of both intrigued about this aspect because there's AI is developing rather quickly, and I think as we were discussing before, everyone is using it, and it will only be used more and more, and probably evolve more and more. There's more of these kind of LLMs out there, and I think the important part is that we should not be afraid to use them, but we also should be aware that an AI is not or is not able to be ethical or has feelings or understands jokes or humor in that sense. And that is an important part that differentiates the AI from a human. And that is also an important part where I believe the human should be in the loop. So make use out of AI to make it make your work more efficient and effective. And I think sometimes there's these stories about replacing certain jobs. I think eventually AI would maybe replace certain parts of a job, but it will change jobs as well eventually. So it will give us as a human to really be good at what we're doing, and that is bringing the authenticity back in the creation of content in this context.
Very good. Interesting answer. I still can't seem to reach Julie. I had a question for her, but maybe it's something that's interesting for you as well. How do you think the AI Act strikes the balance between innovation and regulation? Because that's something that when you see online that there's something written about the AI Act, comes up a lot, the discussion, what should we pick, innovation or regulation? So maybe that's something you have an opinion on as well. Yeah, for you.
Oh, sorry.
No,
I was looking at the chat. I thought maybe there's some.
No.
So I think we should embrace it, right? So I think innovation it means change, and the thing is that it always scares people, right? If we need to change things around, it's always difficult. I think that's kind of part of our human being that is always difficult to change. But eventually, it can also be helpful, and it can provide us a lot of benefits as well. But it also requires certain regulations. So I think I do understand that there is more and more ruling to help people in finding certain guidelines there. But it's also things are changing so rapidly currently that it's also hard to grasp what the impact will be over time. So regulation is also somewhere, there's a lot of regulation now out there, but I think it will also need to prove itself on how are we going to act on it, because it's all pretty new for all of us, I would say. So I think the first cases will start to evolve and also give us a better understanding on how to interpret those rules as well.
Thank you. Then I'll try one more time to get Julie on the screen. We can't see you, but maybe we can hear you. Can you try once, Julie? I think it's not working right now, but for now I've put on the screen 2 QR codes so you can get more information about either Deloitte and their AI Act deep dive. And on the other side, you'll see the Textmetrics QR code, which you can schedule a conversation with Maaike, or of course send us an email. Julie is still with us, but we can't hear or see her, but she wants to thank you all for watching. And if any questions come up, I see one. A question: does Textmetrics have any language restriction? Can AI be used as a writing and word processing tool in any language?
So we currently support most commonly used languages. So I think in total we have on certain parts even 60 plus languages that we support. And we support those also by writing and also in the word processing tool. So we have an API plugin with Word where it actually works in a similar way as I just shown you on the screen.
Thank you, Maaike. I hope that answered your question. So once again, if there's any more questions coming up, or if in a while you find yourself thinking about the topics that were discussed, make sure to contact us. You can either still post them under this LinkedIn page, or just send an email to Julie, Maaike directly. And yes, then for now, I'd like to thank you. I'd like to thank Julie. I'd like to thank Maaike.
Thank you so much, Leka, for hosting us, and
no
thank
problem.
everyone else for participating. And as Rebecca mentioned, if there's any more personal questions on how our technology could help, or how Julie could potentially assist from Deloitte's angle, more than happy to also have a more in-depth discussion as a follow-up to this one.
And with those words, I will end our stream today. Wishing you all a great day. Goodbye.
Thank you, everyone. Bye.